Welcome to Compass Points, the podcast designed to help dentists and their teams find direction for peak practice performance. Doctors, patients, and the obstacles and inefficiencies of insurance. There has got to be a better way. Dr. Chris Magers has dedicated himself to finding it. As Senior Advisor for Fair Market Health, Dr. Magers knows solutions are in place in other areas of healthcare, so we wondered, why not dentistry? He's also wondering if you'd like to join him in the effort to minimize the negative impacts of insurance on our industry and make treatment options and costs more clear and easier for patients to accept and receive. So here to share his vision for lessening the grip of insurance is Dr. Chris Magers with your host, Samantha Jones.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Compass Points podcast. Today, I'm joined by a real stud in the industry. I was introduced to him by a mutual colleague who felt there may be synergy in what he and I do. And boy, was that colleague right. His name is Dr. Chris Magers. Chris is a dentist, private investor, entrepreneur, and executive coach. More importantly, he is a husband of 24 years and proud father of 4 amazing kiddos. Chris graduated from the University of Missouri-Kansas City School of Dentistry in 1998 and is a pioneer of sorts because he successfully built one of the first DSOs in the state of Kansas. Chris served as Senior Managing Partner of Dental Health Partners of Kansas, which is a doctor-owned DSO which operates 4 dental clinics in Kansas. During his 23-year career in dentistry, Chris built a strong team of 13 doctors and 50 skilled dental professionals. In August of 2021, Chris executed a successful exit strategy and is no longer working as a clinical dentist. Whoop, whoop! Congrats, Chris. In fact, Chris is now enjoying what he calls his 2.0 or second half career. I might add, this career shift occurred at the age of 49. Again, whoop, whoop. In contrast to his past success in business, his chief mission is not to continue to run multiple dental practices, but to invest in the lives of people. This is where I felt deep synergy with Chris. He sees the next chapter as one of coming alongside doctors who he wants to help create a vision for life and practice. Ultimately, he believes that every dentist can live more freely and fully with purpose. It's amazing. Speaking of freedom, Chris wears many hats in the dental space. By leveraging his wisdom and experience, Chris is helping free up dentistry from the usual third-party interference and insurance dependence. Interestingly, Chris spent the last year asking the question, what is the next frontier in dental benefits? Or put differently, is there an alternative to dental insurance? A great question that many of us are asking ourselves. Serving as a senior strategy advisor for a new company called Fair Market Health, Chris helped build a dental marketplace, or a dental network, that will allow patients to access employer benefit dollars without third-party involvement. Yeah, you heard it right. No insurance carriers meddling in the patient-doctor relationship. Can I get an amen? Fair Market Health is revolutionizing the healthcare space by making healthcare more affordable and accessible. Definitely something that I can get behind. This includes offering a direct payment solution for dentists without all the hassles of insurance. Chris, I love what you are doing, and I am so excited to welcome you today.
Well, thank you so much, Sam. And I do need to clear the record a little bit. I'm not quite sure what your definition of being joined by a real stud might be. Because Lord knows I've made so many mistakes and have done everything a dentist can possibly do wrong, that I think that I'm here because I want to help people avoid some of those mistakes. I want to help people think differently about their lives, their practices, and perhaps even finding deep meaning and purpose in our everyday lives. So
I love that.
I don't come here as somebody who's got it all figured out. I'm here because, one, I think what you're doing is vitally important right now. in dentistry. We just have to think differently. What got us here over the last 25 years will not keep us here.
Right.
And we probably will dig into some various reasons why what got us here is just not going to keep us here. So thank you for having me. I'm very honored to be here. You're doing great things, and I'm really not formally an executive coach, but as someone who applauds people who have taken the courage like you have to step out there and be in the mix and trying to solve problems, you're in the right place. So thank
Well,
you.
well, thank you for saying that. And you articulated, I think, very well my definition of stud. So I'm going to stick with it.
Oh,
We're going to stay with
okay.
it. I think
All right.
it is a person that can learn from their mistakes and grow and do all of the amazing things that you're doing. And I'm just so grateful to have you here to share what
Thank
you
you.
have been working on today, because it's pretty phenomenal. So I'm just going to jump in because I want to kick off
Okay.
today and lean into this business building question that you have put out there. Is there an alternative to dental insurance in the market today? So let's just dive in. What can
Yeah.
you share with us about that?
Well, I have really good news and I have some frustrating news. The good news is, yes, there is an alternative to dental insurance. The frustrating news is it's going to be up to dentists.
Hmm.
Until we actually bring an alternative option to employers, to the market, to patients, unfortunately, the status quo is just going to keep on keeping on, which
Yeah.
is dental insurance companies have done, unfortunately, a really good job of doing three things. And that is they've created very large networks. And in order to go to an employer group, you have to have a large enough, adequate network
Hmm.
to say, okay, yeah, you have 500 employees that work for this manufacturing company. We have in the state of Kansas, or let's just take Kansas, for example, we have 1,100 dentists in our network.
Hmm.
Well, that's what you call network adequacy.
Yeah.
And so the network is where the control is.
Yeah.
And so it's controlling dentists by way of offering that network, which also includes something that employers are saying, hey, we need help with, and that's called claims administration. And so it is with claims administration, HR directors don't want to know how many crowns you did this year. Meaning they don't want to know, I've got gum disease. I work at this manufacturing company. Let's see if my HR department can handle that for me. No,
Right.
they've outsourced that to companies that are very savvy at claims administration.
Right.
And then finally, the last one is the control of the fee schedule, meaning employers want to know, okay, I don't want all my employees going to this group of dentists that charge $1,000 for a 1 hour dental cleaning.
Hmm.
Okay. So that control, they're just asking for some kind of oversight there. But unfortunately, I just think that until dentists realize that there has to be some disruption in how networks work and how control of the fee schedule works, I think we're going to probably dig a little into, well, what's going to be that agent that will bring the change? And the simple answer is going to be technology.
Yeah.
Technology is going to give us that. So, long answer to what I've studied over the last year, because if you only go at this through the lens of, well, dentists hate insurance, and you're looking only through the lens of a dentist, you're not going to bring change to the marketplace.
It's so true. When you and I first talked, you made that point when we were in our conversation, and it was like something that I already knew, but you just really shed light on what we need to talk about today. Like we need to
Yeah,
really uncover that and really sort of unify, which I think we'll talk about. Unify and disrupt. I think those might be a couple of
yeah,
buzzwords
yeah.
today for sure. So I appreciate that. So, Chris, you've written articles and have told many of us in the profession that dental insurance is adversely affecting financial margins and patient relationships in dentistry. You've also said, as low reimbursements leave little room for profitability and inflationary pressure increases, financial margins will continue to decrease. Do you believe there's something that dentists can do to combat this trend?
Well, as I think back into my 23 years of practicing, I didn't have a lot of time to examine my payer mixes. I
Hmm.
didn't have a lot of time to think about my financial margins. And I think dentistry really should be a game of margin, not volume. I
Hmm.
mean, I really don't want to have to see 50 people a day.
Oh my
I'd rather see
gosh.
10.
Everybody,
And
did
I'd
you hear
rather,
that? It can be
yeah,
done.
it can be done, and I'd rather have a long hygiene exam, not one that takes 2 seconds and you're like, "Hi, hello, goodbye, thanks,
Yeah.
everything looks good. So how is third party interference occurring? I think it's forcing us because we have no elasticity in our pricing. Everybody's working in this fixed rate of low reimbursements. If you're running the typical general dental practice, 65% of your patients, at least what I've discovered, and you may have a different number, have some kind of employer plan or some
Right.
kind of dental benefit.
Yeah, that's
And
about
that's
right.
okay. 65% are
That's a
walking
lot.
in with a card
Yep.
and that says, well, you're going to get this much for a cleaning,
Hmm.
whether you like it or not.
Right.
And you can charge $300 on a cleaning if you want, but you're going to take write-offs. So because there's no elasticity in our pricing, like there would be if you go to the grocery store, and if we're living in inflationary times, one month I know my wife went on and eggs were like $4.99 a dozen. And 6 months prior to that, they were like $1.99 a dozen.
Right.
And so what happened there? Well, they were able to adjust their pricing with
Hmm.
the market dynamics. And so dentistry, unfortunately, if most of our patients are walking in with puny dental plans that
Hmm.
require a write-off, we've just got to get to the heart of how's that working for us.
Right.
And so I'm just kind of digging into that and saying, well, we need to understand our payer mixes, and we don't need to drop out of insurance immediately. I
Right.
think that's going to be a process over time. I believe in shedding the puny plans
Hmm.
over time, using good data, which people like you can bring to
Hmm.
the dentist, and good metrics and understanding, okay, we only have 6 people on this plan, but why are we taking? Because they're actually leasing that plan from another dental network.
That's right.
That's getting into the weeds, but I'm just saying we need to know our payer mixes. We need to not worry about dropping out of insurance all at once. We need it to be a process. And then we need to add something, which is what I'm trying to do with the work at Fair Market Health, that will actually free that up to allow you to become a price setter, not a price taker.
I love that so much. I think that one of the things in my space, the time that I spend with dentists is just the lack of knowledge around how some of these things work is the part that I think we need to get to the heart of that too. Like
Mhm.
dentists, guys, girls, gals, ladies, gentlemen. I've talked to many dentists who don't even realize that they're in a certain relationship with an insurance company because it falls underneath of an umbrella plan or something like that, and they didn't even realize what they were signing up for. And so it's really important that we kind of educate ourselves and figure out what's
Absolutely.
really happening. Do you believe that as technology continues to develop, we will see a disruption in dental benefits plans as we know them? And in what way will technology aid in that disruption?
So today, here's what we do know. We can, without a shadow of a doubt, know that technology today can accomplish what used to take an entire institution. Okay. Let's throw one out. With Uber, technology allowed us to bring buyers and sellers together
Mhm.
in a marketplace that allowed us to get from A to B. I mean, who would have thought 15 years ago that I would get in a car with a complete stranger who's a 24-year-old college kid driving a Toyota Corolla to take me to the airport? And I would trust him, get in and go, hey, how are you? Oh, yeah, okay. And not even think a thing about it. And was thrilled because guess what? I knew the upfront pricing.
Mhm.
I didn't have to pull out a credit card.
Yeah.
The digital aspect allowed me not only to know, is this guy taking the right path to the airport, but the price is transparent
Mhm.
and he's going to get me from A to B. And I like that. Okay. So can you think of the last time you took an actual yellow cab?
I can't. I this is
Okay.
such a great example. It is. Yeah, you're right.
So one more, Airbnb. So
Mhm.
this is a better example. When you decide to go to Palm Springs for a vacation and you say, look at Airbnb, let's look at VRBO. Airbnb does not own the home that you're looking at. What
Mhm.
are they doing? They're providing a platform, a
Right.
marketplace to bring the buyer and the seller together. Okay. So in dentistry, what I started to think about is, well, what if we just use technology, not as an insurance company, not as a dental plan, but as a mode in which we can bring doctors and patients together to do two things: make it more direct and make it transparent. Without transparency, the reason healthcare is in the terrible predicament we're in is because we don't have transparent prices.
Yeah.
When you go into your doctor's office, you have zero clue
It's true.
of what this is going to cost. And pulling out a legacy insurance carrier card does not guarantee you a
Mhm.
lower price. So
Mhm.
that's the healthcare world. What we're doing at Fair Market Health is actually really working because people are begging for transparent pricing. In dentistry, it's a little different. And so we might get into that, but I guess I want to say technology is allowing the buyer and the seller, the doctor and the patient to come together directly and transparently.
I love that. So let's just kind of go there. I want you to tell us more about Fair Market Health. Tell us how it got started. How'd you get connected with
Yeah.
this startup company?
So four of my friends, we've been family friends for 20 years. We all go to the same church. Our kids were raised playing in the same ball teams, soccer leagues, all that. And we all did different things. One was an attorney, one was a physician, one was a CFO at a very large privately held company, and one was a banker. And then myself, we all made a transition in the like 2020, 21, where we were like, okay, we all want a second half career.
Hmm.
And my friend, who's the CFO, started this company by saying, look, we can actually use technology to bring transparent pricing. And so they did that all in. And then they came to me and they said, well, what about dental? And it was through just seeing the way the platform worked, made it transparent, brought a seamless approach to just doctors and patients interacting. Dentistry is still a very relationship thing. So, what
Yeah.
I'm not saying today, don't hear me wrong. I'm not trying to make what we do a commodity, and I'm not trying to get a race to the bottom on the fees. What I'm bringing to our listeners is one, consider technology as a way to disrupt the networks as we know it.
Hmm.
Number two, consider being transparent, and then let the technology be a direct payment solution between employers and your office. Okay.
Hmm.
Because if we can't have that direct payment solution, we're not going to be able to create a marketplace where the employers can trust that
Right.
you're actually utilizing these dollars without having an insurance product in place.
I
So I'm
love
trying
that.
to remove the insurance piece
Hmm.
because insurance is, and I'll get off the soapbox about insurance, but insurance is basically a counterproductive thing for dentistry
Hmm.
because I'm assuming you don't have a car insurance product to pay for your gasoline and your air filters to be changed and your
Right.
oil changes, right? I mean, you pay for that.
Right.
And insurance is for risk, it's for catastrophic events. It's not for dental cleanings.
Hmm.
We don't have a lot of risk involved with a dental cleaning. So let's take the insurance piece out of that
Hmm.
and let's just let employers pay your fee that you are proud of.
Right.
And that's what the technology piece is going to bring.
I love that. This is such a great conversation, and you're shedding so much light in Fair Market Health. As soon as I heard about this, I knew I wanted to have you on the podcast because I think it's such an innovative way to start thinking about
Yeah,
how we're treating our patients and how we're managing our fees and margins and all of that. So,
right.
okay, you're a big advocate for what you like to call a free market approach to dentistry. So, one, I want you to tell us more about that idea and what it means. But beside bringing free market solutions to the dental space, you believe that it is powerful when dentists unite. So, I want you
Yeah.
to elaborate on that for us as well.
So a free market is where you kind of freely are able to make choices between the doctor and the patient. The interference occurs when behaviors begin to change. Perhaps a dentist may say, well, I mean, a great example. The very first dental implant I ever restored was in about 2001. I had been out of dental school 3 years. The patient walks in, they had had an implant already placed, and they said, hey, we need you to do this dental implant restoration. Well, I had to start from scratch. And I'm going to just kind of cut through everything and say, do you know how much money I made on that crown and that restoration, that custom abutment?
Probably not very much.
A negative $90
Yeah, that's
because the lab bill and the expenses exceeded what the insurance company would allow.
ouch.
So what happened there? Well, I had to take another look. I couldn't use that type of restoration anymore. I couldn't just say willy-nilly to the lab, do whatever you think's best.
Right.
I couldn't just wait on the lab to send me something they were extremely proud of. I had to get very savvy or I had
Yeah.
to quit.
Yeah.
I had to quit doing implants. Well, that's not good.
Yeah.
So I'm just giving a really kind of bitter example that the free market allows me to have the kind of pricing that I'm proud of where the
Mhm.
patients get to choose, they have options, and we come together freely without the obstacles and the barriers. And so, how do we do that? I think I can sum it up in this way: the most direct care possible.
Yeah.
And so I'm wanting to start a movement. It's happening in medicine. It's called direct primary care.
Yes, which
I'd
is
love to
amazing.
see a movement of dentists who are tired, worn out, frustrated, and making negative $90 on an implant
Mhm.
say, you know what, there's a better way to do this. And it's going
Yeah.
to be direct care.
I love
And
that. I see a direct primary care physician, and
yeah,
it's been a pretty incredible experience. And I would be so excited and so amazed to see that transfer over into our
yeah,
industry. What an incredible thing that would be to give to patients. Like, if you're a patient listening, this is for you too. This is what elevates our care
yes.
and all of that. It's an amazing thing. You recently spoke at a conference at the Becker's Dental Review event last month in Chicago. Congratulations, by the way. That's very cool. I believe the title of that conference was the Future of Dentistry Roundtable. Did I get that right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's what it was. Yeah.
Would you share a few key takeaways, a few thoughts that you have after being involved in that discussion?
Yeah. I think this was their first one. They took a gamble and said, let's really prop up, because Becker's covers A to Z healthcare. I mean, everything from ambulatory surgery centers to the whole spectrum. And I've recently really paid attention to Becker's. They tend to really pull the DSOs in and start really letting them have a place to kick things around. And so at this first roundtable, the topic was, okay, where are we and what is it going to look like 5, 10 years down the road? One of the key takeaways is that I found and figured out that the DSOs are watching what the government's doing like a hawk. And
Yeah.
what I mean there is Medicare. What's Medicare going to do in our space? Are they going to enter the space? What's going to change once Medicare becomes a regular routine part? Well,
Hmm.
I think they're going to see two things. Independent practices are not going to be able to compete with such low rates once the government begins to introduce Medicare as a just a regular routine part. Now, they're starting small. If this all comes about, it's going to be only specific procedural codes are going to be covered.
Hmm.
But I think that's really going to change things a lot. And maybe you have some thoughts on there. But the fact that the largest jumbo DSOs in the space, with the executives sitting in the room, all of them were in
Yeah.
the room, from Heartland, Aspen,
Hmm.
Pacific, some of the newer ones, Gen 4, many of them were at the table. And the conversation was, what in the world's Medicare going to do? Because here's the two things it's going to change. One, it's going to affect independent practices, which is possibly going to call for them to actually roll up even more practices into their fold because they have savvier systems to deal with smaller margins.
Right.
But they're also concerned because, the DSO game, the larger ones that are trying to not just remain privately held, but more getting into private equity and funding, they are concerned that the multiples when
Hmm.
they perhaps sell, they're not going to get the large multiples that they thought because the margins are shrinking. So
Yeah.
they're not worried about it this month or next 6 months, but we're talking in the next 3 to 5 years we could really see some changes. So I want to be in the middle of that conversation, and I want us to be thinking differently.
I love that. So, as far as we're talking about 3 to 5 years, what is the face of dentistry in 10 years? What do you think
Yeah,
that looks like?
well, I don't have the crystal ball, but
Darn
I
it.
do think that there's going to be a movement of more direct care. People saying, look, my doctor is doing this. I'm paying $80 a month to have access to my doctor, who
Hmm.
is wonderful because they spend more time with me. They're not hurried. I'm fine with the fact that because I'm probably paying for my healthcare out of pocket anyway, because
Right.
I have such a high deductible catastrophic plan that's not going to pay. I
Hmm.
think you're going to see employers being more to here's what they're faced with. They're faced with wanting to recruit good talent, and they're going to want to retain good talent. In order to do that, they're going to have to make some benefit. So they're going to have to bolster benefits to bring dentistry into the conversation of, well, maybe direct dental care is going to be a part of that membership environment where employers are saying, look, we're going to give you $60 a month to access your dentist as
Yeah.
well,
Yeah.
and use it or lose it type of thing. So I hope that's the case,
So,
because I think dentists will not be hurried. I think we're going to be able to offer better care.
Yeah.
And the outcomes are going to be better. So I hope that's a key one. We know DSOs are going to only grow and they're going to continue to grow. But I think that there's going to be a new segment and a new model of that that's just going to allow dentists to flourish in ways that they wouldn't if they were just acting alone. So we'll
I
see
love
where
that.
it goes.
Well, I'm all about this movement. I think it's amazing that you're trying to be at the forefront of all that's happening in this space. And I appreciate so very much. What
Oh,
a
yeah.
great conversation today, and such wonderful information for
Thank you.
our dentisting friends to tune in and learn more. I'm not going to let you off the hook just
Oh,
yet.
okay.
So, here at the Compass Points podcast, we have a signature question that we ask all of our guests. And I'd love to hear from you, Chris, on this one as well. So here you go. You ready?
Okay.
If you were a compass and you had 4 points of direction to give all of humankind, what would they be?
Wow, that's deep.
It is deep.
I would say I'm not sure it's going to answer the whole compass on direction other than let's look to our true north for our purpose. And because I think deeply implanted in every person's heart is to have a purpose to make our lives count. And if you don't, then we should all help each other get to that place where we're living into our purpose. We should love our purpose.
Yes.
And so the true north will be loving our purpose. And to do that, you got to have focus. And if you can focus, then focus increases margin. Okay. If we're just what Zig Ziglar used to call a wandering generality, but not a meaningful specific, we're going to be haphazard. We're going to be all over the place. We're going to be like that ship that's just going with the wind. Okay.
Without direction.
Without direction. But if you build margin, you start with focus when you have more that one thing. Okay. When you have the one thing life, then you move into building more margin. And then when you have more margin, you actually open up more capacity to live more freely and fully. And so what I hope for my kids and for my friends is, and for myself every day is, okay, how can I live more freely and fully with that purpose? And for me, I want to see my everyday work, whether I'm pulling teeth or helping dentists think about their own lives. I want to see my everyday work as having everlasting significance.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. And again, I think now everybody can kind of see where this synergy lies. I thank you for that. That was a very beautiful answer, and I appreciate that. Tell us where our friends listening can learn more about Fair Market Health.
So you can go to www.fairmarkethealth.com and just kind of peek at it. There's a section on providers, and you could actually fill out a little landing page that says, I'd like to learn more. You could email me at chris.majors@fairmarkethealth.com. And then I would be happy to either set up time or send you a little more, because there's a lot of learning here. I mean, let's just say we've got to start somewhere. And so what I don't want anyone holding against me is saying, well, I just don't agree with all that. I want people to say, well, okay, this isn't perfect, but it's something. And if I could just add, not worry about taking away insurance plans, but just add something that's perhaps going to move us into a different direction. Perhaps over time, we can have a whole different space. So consider emailing me or go to the site, click on providers and learn more about it.
I love that. Thank you for sharing that. And we'll make sure that we put that in the podcast as well, so people have access to that in case you didn't catch it or you're driving or something like that while listening. Don't write while you're driving, guys. Well, in closing today, I just want to reach out. I want to ask my dentisting friends to think about all that was shared today. Imagine what is possible if we unite and we lean in to the alternatives that are being created for us right now to keep more of what we earn and to find more freedom in what we do. We have to talk about these things, and we have to help each other on this journey to a more joyful way of practicing. You deserve that. We want to, like Chris said, live freely. Before I let you go today, please hop on over to www.compassdps.com to check out our newly revised and elevated online education and group coaching program. It's for you, Doc, and the whole team. If you're looking for ways to level up your practice, to motivate your team, maybe even a tool to train new team members, we have what you need. I would love to talk to you more about it, so don't hesitate to reach out. Thank you for joining us today, Chris. And until next time, Be well, my friends.